You know, we see the headlines all the time, right? Big drug busts, major arrests. It looks like the war on drugs is making some real headway. But when you look at Meghalaya, those headlines are just scratching the surface of a much more complicated and, frankly, troubling story. So let's dig in.
I mean, if you only followed the news, you'd be forgiven for thinking that law enforcement is absolutely crushing it. There's this constant drumbeat of press releases and news reports, all detailing successful operations, painting this picture of relentless, effective action. Just take a look at this recent one from December 9th. Police in the southwest Garo Hills bust a person. They seized nearly 800 grams of cannabis. It's a textbook press release. Looks like a clear win for the good guys.
And that's not a one-off. Go back a bit to November, and you see another success story. Over 72 grams of some pretty high-value heroin taken off the streets. You see this pattern again and again, month after month.
Or rewind to September. A massive haul, heroin worth 2.5 crore rupees intercepted. The numbers are staggering and the arrests just keep on coming. But this is where the whole official narrative starts to, well, fall apart. Because it all leads to this massive paradox. If the cops are so consistently successful, if they're making all these seizures, why does the actual supply of drugs on the street seem totally unchanged? How is it that there's always another dealer, always another shipment, ready to take the place of the last one?
Well, the answer, according to our source material, is that the entire battle plan is fundamentally flawed. You see, the current strategy isn't really disrupting the supply chain at all. It's just picking off the most visible and, honestly, the most replaceable parts of it.
This next slide gives us a perfect analogy for what's happening. We are arresting individual ants while the anthill remains untouched. It just perfectly captures the issue, doesn't it? Every single arrest is just one ant. It's easily replaced. Meanwhile, the massive organized structure, the anthill, is just carrying on completely undisturbed.
And get this, estimates suggest that law enforcement is probably only intercepting about 10 to 15% of the total drugs flowing through. Just think about that for a second. That means for every one bust you read about in the news, another 8 or 9 shipments are sailing right on through to consumers. The numbers we see are, quite literally, just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, so why is this anthill so powerful, so resilient? To figure that out, we've got to zoom out and look at the map, because Meghalaya is up against this enormous external force, the shadow of the infamous Golden Triangle.
Now, for anyone who's not familiar, the Golden Triangle is one of the biggest drug production hubs on the entire planet, covering parts of Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand. And as you can see, Meghalaya is located right there, smack in its striking range. That makes it a perfect, natural gateway for narcotics to enter India.
It's really a perfect storm of factors that make it an ideal corridor for traffickers. You've got these porous international borders that are just incredibly difficult to police effectively. Then there's a serious lack of modern scanner infrastructure at the checkpoints. And on top of all that, the main national drug agency, the Narcotics Control Bureau, or NCB, has a really limited presence there.
And this gets us right to the heart of the problem. There's a total mismatch between the scale of the issue and the response. The state is stuck fighting these little tactical skirmishes when what it desperately needs is a long-term, comprehensive strategy. Right now, it's just fighting the symptoms, not the disease itself.
This slide lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the current tactics. They're all reactive: arrests, seizures, and of course the press releases that make it all look good. But on the right, that's what's actually needed, a proactive strategy. We're talking about beefing up border infrastructure, coordinating intelligence to go after the kingpins, not just the couriers, and, so importantly, working to reduce the demand for drugs in the first place.
Now, to be fair, the government has launched some initiatives, like the DREAM mission, and they've proposed new laws for longer preventive detention. But the source material describes these efforts as Band-Aids on a hemorrhage. They might be well-intentioned, but they're just nowhere near the scale required to actually stop the bleeding.
And that brings us to what might be the most critical failure in this entire story. It's the complete inaction on solutions that the state itself has already identified as being absolutely essential to turn this thing around. Just look at this timeline. Back in July, the state government itself went to the National Human Rights Commission with a list of concrete solutions. Now, fast forward to December, months later. The status? Unchanged. Absolutely none of those proposals have been implemented. Zero. And what were these proposals? They weren't minor tweaks. We're talking about the big, strategic stuff we just mentioned, a dedicated NCB office right there in the state to coordinate intelligence, the legal power for longer preventative detention, getting those crucial scanner vehicles to the borders much, much faster. These game-changing solutions are just sitting on a shelf, gathering dust.
So all of this leaves us with one final and really deeply unsettling question. While all the focus stays on arrests and seizures, the human cost of this crisis just keeps climbing. So if the state is truly serious about winning this war, why isn't there a single, dedicated drug de-addiction hospital in the whole of Meghalaya? People seeking help have to travel to other states. What does that say about the real priorities here? Perhaps it tells us that the focus is still just on swatting the ants, while the anthill continues to cast its long and devastating shadow.